Hello my felting friends, welcome to this Tuesday's Because I Felt Like It video. And yes, I sort of felt like having a cocktail, and so therefore we're going to make, in my case, a Piña Colada, but this could be any cocktail that you'd like. I sadly didn't get an opportunity to do a lot of research for this one, so I'm going to have to make up for it after I've done it and drink the little bottle instead. But what you can do is have any bottle you like and make it into any cocktail that you fancy. So let's grab ourselves a cocktail or a beverage of some kind and we'll see how I made this one. We'll say my apologies if you hear doggy footprints, foot sounds. It's because I need to get this voiceover done today and I've nowhere else to put them but in the lounge. So anyway, so what I started with was I found a container of roughly the size I would like my coconut to be, and what I've done is I actually just stuffed it full of tinfoil. I wrapped this tinfoil round a ball and then I just padded it all out till it fitted. And then what I've done here is I've just bought some really cheap tinfoil and I've just wrapped the tinfoil around the outside of my container, because what I'm going to do basically is make a pattern so that I've got a rough idea of what size it's going to go to. So I just wrapped it with 2 or 3 sheets of just any old cheap tinfoil, and this is what I'm going to do. Now you could do this another way, but I didn't have what I needed. You could have put some rice in something like a Hessian bag, something like that, and tie it off if it makes it to the size that you want, and then you could felt straight into that, a bit like a felting that. So you could felt straight into that, but I didn't have that, so this is why I'm doing it this way and just making a sort of rough pattern out of this tinfoil. And I did find later on that although I had to be very, very careful, I could needle felt into the tinfoil. You know, the other thing I made that went inside it, it's actually got a dryer ball inside, which is made of wool anyway, and then I wrapped it into a wool, and I could the needle felt, if I was very careful, into that. But anyway, so all I'm doing here is just making sure it roughly fits the size container I want. If you're going to put a little bottle in it like I've done, then you will need to make sure that it will fit into that. Obviously you don't want to make it too small and find that the bottle won't fit. So this is all I'm done, and then I don't have to be perfect because it's going to get squashed and moulded and everything. This is just to give me a rough guide. So all I'm doing now is just cutting it open, as you see, and then I'll lay it out, and I'm not worried. This came out, in fact, a little bit too big, but I can mould it round. It didn't make a lot of difference. The distant dog barking as well, I'm so sorry. They're lovely dogs, really. They just never behave when I need them to. Anyway, so just cut it out roughly like I've done, and then lay it out flat, and we will draw around this. I'm actually going to draw around it onto some of my 100% wool felt, but you could just use it as a template and needle felt wool into that pattern and just keep measuring it against the template that you've got there if you wanted to. You don't have to do the extra step I'm doing. So I could just keep needle felting and then measure it against that, but this was just easier for me. So this part obviously is going to be the coconut when it's done. So I've drawn it out, cut it out, and now all I did was cover it. I talk about core wool, but it's just the basic carded wool. So if you've got any, again, lying around that you don't need, the first part I did was just cream, just any old colour, pale colour, to get the base of the wool. And then when I'd got the thickness I wanted, which is, I don't know, it's about 1/4 of an inch thick, I then went back over it with some white wool, because I don't like to use all my best wool to bulk things out. So then I just went over it with that and made it white inside like a coconut would be. So here I'm literally just moulding this shape the best I can around the inner thing I made. And as you can see, I do needle felt. You just be careful, just pay attention when you're needle felting into the tinfoil, because you can break your needles and you don't want that. But I just keep needle felting it till I get it to roughly the size I want. And what I did do is I needle felted it almost sideways, so rather than going directly into the tinfoil in a lot of cases, I was needle felting I don't know whether you'll be able to see them, but almost like along the sides rather than in. And I just keep needle felting. It takes a little while because you want it reasonably firm. So just keep at it until it's got to the firmness that you like. It obviously will eventually just to be able to hold up that little bottle. But now I've needle felted it reasonably well, and I know that my little bottle will fit in there, and I've covered it in white. And as you can see, it's just a little bit bigger than the mould I made. But I'm not worried because as long as it doesn't distort out of shape and get too big, it's fine. So now I've got some kind of coconutty coloured brown that I'm going to put on the outside. Now look at what I'm doing, because I do not want that needle to go through to the other side, because if I do, I'm going to have brown bits come through on the white. So I'm needle felting almost across all the time rather than in. I hope you can see what I mean. It's like I'm going across so that I never actually puncture through to the white. Because what I'm saying, you can go into the white that's on the other side. You just don't want to break through right through to the other side, or you'll push the brown fibres out. And then you'll be back and forwards, kind of putting some white on to cover up the brown, and then putting some brown on to cover up the white. So do try. So as you can see there, I'm needle felting into it, but I'm just not going through. And now I'm just making sure that the top edge of the coconut outside is nice and tidy. And in this instance, I don't do it, but in this instance, because my brown that I put on the outside has got a little bit of white in it, I probably could get away from felting the inside to the outside, and it wouldn't really make a lot of difference. But I wouldn't get away doing it the other way around. I'll stop repeating myself, but I hope you know what I mean. So as you can see, I'm punching it in sideways rather than straight into the tin foil. And because I'm doing that, it's gathering in the felt as well, the wool as well, so it's making it a little snugger, a little tighter all the time. And I made sure that the bottom was really firm, because obviously that's what it's going to stand on, so I need a nice flat bottom to it. You can see that my wool's got white and bits in it. And again, needle felting sideways, not into it. Now I've found something that roughly fits the opening I had, and I've cut something. I want to be able to lift this little lid off. So you could use I happen to have a bit of like foam boardy stuff. It's flexible, but it's a kid's thing. It's just a bit of foam. But you could use some bit of sturdy card. That would be fine, because you're not needle felting into it at all. You're just going to glue onto it later. So now all I'm doing is I'm going to needle felt myself a nice disc of something. This is just cream coloured core wool again, and I'm just going to make sure that fits my template. And that by the time you finish felting that needs to be thick enough to be a reasonable lid that goes onto your cocktail. It covers your coconut bits. So if you've had a go at any of the coasters I've shown you in the past, this is basically, if you just imagine you're making the coaster, and this is basically the same thing. Although I obviously haven't got the felt base on this one. So I'm just going to keep going till I know it fits. Just if you don't do this, this is bad. I'm a bad person. don't felt like that, it'll felt your fingers. Now I've got I wasn't sure of the best way to be able to lift the lid off, so I decided to get myself a pipe cleaner, because I'm going to sandwich that pipe cleaner between that foam base and the wool that we've felted as a disc, so that I can use it to lift off with. So eventually that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to sandwich it together, so you should be able to lift that up using that then. I do work in a mess sometimes. Now I'm making pineapple. It does morph between being a pineapple wedge and a lemon slice quite a lot through this, and I think I ended up with pineapple, but I could just have ended up with a slightly off lemon wedge. I'm really not sure. It was I did actually have a pineapple up for a reference, but it still seemed to switch between a lemon slice and a piece of pineapple. So choose your slice of fruit that you'd like. It doesn't have to be pineapple, and just make yourself a slice of fruit of some sort. You could make orange, anything, and use that to go on the side of your coconut. So I had pictures. Oh, I had pictures of pina coladas up for days. It's very sad, and I looked at what people put in their coconut drinks things, and I just picked the pineapple, which was probably a mistake, but you'll see if you watch, it does end up looking like a lemon slice and then a pineapple. So I didn't mind either in the end. It's all good fun. I don't know whether I went off topic, but that's what that piece of card was in the background. I just wanted a rough size for how big I wanted a piece of pineapple to end up. I had to clean up some of the white that was on my felting mat. You'll see I like this. It picks most of it up. It's lovely. But it was starting to attach to all my other things. So you see what I mean? It's very good, that little... It's just a silicone dog brush. Yeah, so I haven't had a pina colada for years and years and years. And because I made the camper van the other day, I don't know whether you've seen that video, and it got me kind of thinking about holidays and beaches and things like that. And this popped in my head, and I thought, oh, I'm going to have a go at that. It's completely pointless. Although, having said that, again, this is another one that could make quite a nice, weird little gift for someone. Because if you know what their cocktail is that they like, you could mix it for that. Make it for that. But I did say that when I started this series, it was going to be some very random, strange things I was going to have a go at. I'm still waiting for some suggestions, if you have any, for what you'd think you'd like me to have a go at on these Tuesday videos. So, do feel free to pop that in the comments section below as well, along with what cocktail you like. And I may have a go at some point with some of them. Otherwise, you're just going to get some very odd things. So this is where it starts to be a lemon slice, because it couldn't decide whether it wanted to be a pineapple or lemon. But I just kept working at it. So the pineapple I looked at as a reference picture had like a slightly darker core, and then it had this bright yellow main part, and then there were like much lighter lemony, back to lemons, much lighter lemony colours mixed amongst it. So what I started off doing was I wanted to try and mark out the pieces of the pineapple, which you'll see, which is why it looks a bit like a lemon slice for a while. And then I go back in and add some lighter lemony coloured wool over the bright yellow that's on there now, and that did help. Now, this is what happens when I have a bit of nice weather. I get all excited for summer, and my mind goes off onto summer holidays and all that kind of thing. So this is where I put some of the lighter colour just very thinly over that bright lemony yellow, just tone it down a bit. But you can see what I mean about it swinging between a lemon slice and a pineapple. I was thinking, obviously I could make cocktail needle felts on a regular basis, because then I would have to regularly sample different ones to see, what's in them and things like that. In the same way that I had to sample the fruit pies for my little mouse one. I don't think that's unreasonable, and I'm sure I could try asking my other half to help me out with those. I don't know how much felting I'd get done if I was constantly sampling cocktails, though. Right, so here, my piece of pineapple that I was looking at had little crisscrosses on it, and they had quite a lot of green, so I don't know how well you can see this, but this is actually just a little bit of green felt, green wool, sorry, that I'm just going to do a bit of crisscrossing over the pineapple edge with. And the crisscrosses came right down into the pineapple yellow part as well, so I've made sure that as I cross it over, the ends actually go into the pineapple bit. So it's anybody's guess what next Tuesday's video is going to be, because I have no clue at the moment. Unless I get any very quick suggestions, I have no idea. I usually start making the ones for Tuesday, say on maybe Friday and over the weekend. So you've got sort of till Friday of this week if you have any suggestions. So then all I did with it was cut a slice up into it and then just push it down over the coconut, and I'm just going to felt that well in place. There we go, it's pretty well on there now. So I decided, having had another look at the Piña Coladas, that they were a little yellower as a drink than the top of my lid was. So I've just gone back over it with some bit of that lemon yellow mixed in with some of the creamy colour, and I've just put that back over. Just wanted a little bit more colour on it. I don't actually know if they're quite that yellow, but so then I put my little bottle in, and I just cut down sort of a third of the way through, maybe. I just wanted enough that I could tuck it around the bottle a bit. So apparently you have cherries on the cocktails as well, so all this is some red wool. I wound it round and then I tied it in a couple of knots like that, just so I wasn't there forever needle felting. Pull it tight, and then I just folded those end bits round and just needle felt them in until I got to the size of a cherry that I wanted. So felt it all down well. Don't forget to felt yourself in a little dent somewhere as well, because that's where you're going to put the stalk of the cherry, if you want the cherry with yours. But this wants to be quite firm, and then felt it down. Obviously don't have, this is just the felt, this isn't the base as well. So just felt it down onto that. So quite firmly. And make sure your little dent is up somewhere so that you can stick your stalk into it in a minute. You can make the stalk out of anything you like. I just made it out of some green wool, which I felt it down a little bit. I twirled it so it was a long thin bit, and then I felt it down a few times so it's held together. And then all I did was, once it was in place, I just kept rolling it between my fingers. So I don't know whether the grease, sounds disgusting, the grease of your fingers or something, but it held it into place in the end, so it was stalk-like. You could use something else if you want to. I just trying to keep as much as I can felted. And then you just obviously needle felt the little stalk into the dimple you made. And then in a second I'll just cut that to the length I like. And because it ended up being quite a short stalk, it held up just fine. Had a little bit of fluffy bit on the end there. So now I made, these aren't made ever so well, I'll be honest. I made some flower petals. I just picked some colours I liked and made 5 pointy petals. And they were quite thin, but I just kept felting them down into some sort of shape that I like. And the very ends, that's the pointy end at that end. The end I'm holding, I twist a little bit so that it's firm and stays in place, because I shall put all those bits together. You'll see in a minute, but I put all those bits overlapping each other. And the other thing I did with this, because I don't know why I didn't show you, but once I'd done these, and the umbrella parasol bit, which you'll see in a minute, I took the 5 petals and the parasol and I ran a hot dry iron over them, because what that does is it helps bond the fibres together a little bit, and it makes it thinner. So you'll see in a minute when I bring them back and lay them out, they're not fuzzy anymore, and they will be nice. They will look more like a flower. Now, I don't know whether I'm supposed to have ironed this one, but I found I'd got a little bit of wool in it. It's got that, like, I think they call it something like angel hair in it. It's pink, but the angel hair is shiny, little strands. It's not wool, little strands of something that's shiny. And I took a bit of a risk and ironed it, and it was fine. So I don't know whether I'm supposed to iron it or not. I thought it might melt, but it didn't. So I managed to iron my parasol flat. So pick the size of the parasol if you want to make it, and then find anything that you like. You could actually needle felt a pattern onto it if you wanted to. I just had some, I think this is like sari silk stuff. I'm sorry, I don't know. They come in advent calendars and I've no clue what these bits are. Anyway, put that over and just needle felted it down, and I used just something so I could get a round shape with it. So that's why I look like I'm needle felt. It's just a roll of tape. It's like a masking tape or something, and it's just got a big centre. And I just wanted it to have a rough round shape. And I'm just filling in a gap there that I didn't have enough. And then I wanted it a little bit thicker. I didn't want it too thick, but I needed it a little bit thicker because I'd actually done it a bit too thin, a bit see-through. So I just found another colour that went with it and popped it over. And all I'm doing here is just trying to tidy the edges up a little bit. And it's just between 2 bits of card. I wouldn't do this barehanded without something to hold it in like that. And even then, just be a little bit gentle if you've got card, because you can poke through the card if you're not careful. Right, so these, I don't know whether you'll be able to see the difference, but these have all been ironed now. So they're flatter now. And I'm just, as you can see, just crisscrossing them over and making an arrangement to make a little flower out of them. I have no idea what the flower is. It just, the cocktails I looked at had flowers in, so this is what this is. And that one had warped a little bit out of shape. None of them are perfect, but I'm just having fun. So all I'm doing here is I just trimmed it just a teeny bit into shape, and then I'm just cutting off all the fuzzy edges off the flowers leaves. Oh, sorry, flower petals. So I'm not really cutting the petal itself, just the fluffy bits. And then the long ends, that's what I left them long for, so that I can cross it all over and I'll have a firm fixing in the middle. So just pick whichever side of the petal looks nicer that you want to be able to see. And then I just crossed them over and felt them down so they all stick together. And then I just grabbed a bit of wool. I wasn't too worried about what the colour was, because this is going to be the underside of the flower. I just wanted something to knit it all together. And then over the top in a minute I will put a little bit of white. So this is the side you're going to see, but you can obviously have any colours you like. And having done that on both sides, it held all the little petals together better. And then what I did was I went around and I just gathered the ends up that met in the middle just a little bit to make the petals a little bit rounder, a little bit to poke up a bit more off the flat area. I do waffle sometimes. I hope you can see what I mean. I just pulled them up a little bit. So this is the disc we're going to stick everything onto, and I cut that big area out so that I can get the bottle in. So out comes the good old boss stick, and I'm just going to glue the pipe cleaner and the top part all together, so we have a sandwich here. I made this so that if you gave it a gift, if you gave it as a gift or something, when the person's taken the bottle out, the little flower, I'm not going to needle felt that into place, because the little flower can then sit over that split. You can just lay it over there, so you wouldn't actually see that once you've taken the bottle out. Or if you're not going to put a bottle in it, then you need to make that slit anyway, and then if you want to, you can needle felt your flower into place. Now this is the parasol again, and all I'm doing is like needle felting. I folded it in half obviously, and I'm just needle felting the edges so that I have what looks like ridges on the parasol. I only did this into quarters, but you could do it into more if you want to. And you'll see in a moment when I unfold it that it does give you just a bit of a ridge. I mean, if you couldn't be bothered to do this, you could easily put just a paper parasol in, it wouldn't matter. There you can see now that you've got the ridges. And then I will just boss stick my little stick in a minute and put that up and onto the parasol and let it set. So I'm not poking it through, I'm just resting it on the top. If you like this, please don't forget to give me a like. I would very much appreciate it. It lets YouTube know that people like it, and it will show my video to more people, and that would be lovely because that will help my channel grow. So I would very much appreciate that. Thank you. Right, so it's time to assemble your coconut gift. So whatever bottle you've got, pop that in, and then these are just plastic ice cube things that you can pop in your freezer, because I thought if you were giving it as a gift, it would be nice for them to have a few little things in it. So we've got obviously the bottle of whatever you've got, your cocktail drink, and then those little ice cubes, obviously they're not frozen, which I thought would be a nice little thing. Yeah, there you go, you see, so you can pop that over that split, and because it'll go back together when you take the bottle out, and then it wouldn't show. So I thought that was quite nice. So then we're just assembling it really. So pop all your bits in, fold that round your bottle. You can tuck that down a little bit like that, and then we can pop our flower wherever we like. We can pop our parasol on in a moment, and I bought a paper straw because I thought that would look nicer, so I put that over the top of my pipe cleaner, and then I just cut it down to size of it because it was too long like that. So I just had a nose down it to see where the pipe cleaner was, and then just cut the top off a bit. Stick on your parasol, and there you go. You have a nice fruit cocktail drink, and it can be alcoholic or non-alcoholic. So I hope you enjoyed that. If you did, like I say, please do give me a like, subscribe if you'd like some more strange videos. If you enjoyed this video, have a look at the pictures on the screen now. There might be a video there that you might enjoy as well. See you next week. Bye for now.